I'm Stephanie Von Latke, and I'm a professor of international relations in the Department of Political Studies. I'm also the Canada Research Chair in Gender, Security, and the Armed Forces. My research focuses on alliance politics, military affairs, and the women, peace, and security agenda. A lot of my current research focuses on how international organizations implement the women, peace, and security agenda. So it's primarily looking at the increased representation of women and also the inclusion of gender considerations in international programming. I published a book called Deploying Feminism, the Role of Gender in NATO Military Operations. And now I'm expanding this research programs with two wonderful colleagues of mine, Dr. Yolande Bouka and Dr. Stéphanie Martel, and with a grant from SSHRC, an INSIGHT grant, and funding from the Department of National Defense, we will compare different regional security organizations, NATO, the African Union, and ASEAN, to compare how women, peace, and security agenda policies are integrated into these different regional contexts. What's fundamental about my research on women, peace, and security, especially in the context of regional security organizations, is to better understand the link between gender equality and achieving stable and sustainable security outcomes. So I'm really excited about the prospects of comparing different international organizations and looking at different regional contexts from North America to Europe, Africa, and Asia. And to be able to do this with other colleagues in the department, to me, that's the most exciting part of the research, to be able to expand the scope of the research beyond my original focus on NATO. So right now I have a research program that involves two professors in the Department of Political Studies who are very close colleagues, Professors Stéphanie Martel and Yolande Bouka. And so we involve all of our graduate students in our collaborative research program. And when I say the involvement of students is an omnipresent focus of our research, that's really from A to Z, from the moment that we develop our research concept and pitch it to different types of stakeholders, to really launching the research program, doing the fieldwork and data collection, and writing it up. There's also a very important part of graduate student involvement in the dissemination of our research findings. So making sure that graduate students have the appropriate resources to be able to travel and participate in conferences so that they can meet colleagues and peers who work in similar areas is also incredibly important. What I'll stress also is that graduate students, through involvement in these types of research projects, really build a sense of cohort. So it's not only about working with professors, but it's also working with a group of other graduate students and growing together as they evolve in that project from inception to its conclusion. When I arrived at Queen's University, one thing that was immediately apparent to me is that Queen's University is a hub for research on international relations, military affairs, and security studies. And Queen's University has a number of research groups, centers, and institutes with dedicated expertise in this area. In addition to that, and perhaps more specifically for students interested in topics linked to military affairs, Queen's University is in Kingston, and Kingston does have a large military and veteran community, in addition to a lot of organizations from the Department of National Defense and the Canadian Armed Forces. So this kind of access is really beneficial for doing research in this space. So to me, research outreach takes on many different forms. First and foremost, I think of the participants who are involved in my various research projects. And right now, those are primarily stakeholders from the Canadian Armed Forces and also stakeholders who are engaged in international organizations. So from people who work in places like NATO to civil society organizations who engage with these types of organizations. And so being able to circle back to these research participants when the research is done, to let them know what kind of policy recommendations have emerged from the research is really important to me. I also see another important aspect of research outreach to be media outreach. So when it comes to breaking headlines, whether it's on NATO or culture change in the Canadian Armed Forces, when stakeholders from various media outlets reach out to me, I do make some time to be able to communicate some of the important research findings emanating from the research that is being carried out here in the Department of Political Studies and at Queen's, more broadly speaking. And finally, I'll say that within my community, I serve as an honorary lieutenant colonel for the Princess of Wales' Own Regiment. This is an infantry regiment of reservists. And there are a lot of Queen's students who happen to serve as reservists in the Canadian Armed Forces, and connecting with them and being involved in my community in that way is very meaningful to me.